Tom is sitting at his kitchen table at 11 at night, and there's a credit card statement folded open in front of him, and the number in the corner says $4,180. He doesn't remember spending $4,000 on anything. He remembers a lot of $11 lunches, and a couple of $40 dinners, and one flight he booked without thinking twice about it in April. None of it felt like $4,000 while it was happening. That's the whole point of this video. We're going to find out why, and there's a second number waiting for Tom about 18 months from tonight, in a small room with a printer humming in the corner, a number worse than this one that he has no idea is coming. Debt doesn't feel like debt while you're making it. It feels like nothing at all, which is exactly the design flaw that's draining Tom, and probably you too right now in ways too small to notice one purchase at a time. There are three separate mechanisms working against Tom at that table, and none of them are about him being careless. They were built on purpose by people whose income depends on you never quite feeling what's happening. We're going to take them one at a time. Here's the mechanism, and it's not about willpower. When you hand over cash, your brain registers a small, real pinch, something researchers call the pain of paying. You feel the money leave your hand. A card removes that pinch almost entirely because nothing physically leaves you in the moment. Studies on this are almost absurd once you hear them. People at the same drive-thru spend on average around 12 to 18% more per transaction with a card than with cash for the exact same menu, because the card has quietly numbed the one signal that used to make you hesitate. Tom didn't feel $11 leave his hand at lunch. He felt nothing. He felt it 40, 60, 90 times, and each time nothing. And that's how nothing became $4,180 sitting under a kitchen light at 11 at night. He can picture almost none of the individual purchases if you asked him to list them. A coffee here, a grocery run that ran longer than planned, a subscription he forgot he still had, renewing itself every month without ever once asking his permission again. Every single one of them was small enough in the moment to not be worth thinking about. That's not an accident. That's the entire strategy. You felt this too, probably this week. The tap that took less than a second. The confirmation that flashed and vanished before you'd even really decided. That's not weakness. That's a system built by people whose entire business model depends on that decoupling, working exactly as intended on a brain that evolved to weigh a coin in its hand, not a number on a screen. Here's the second thing that makes debt feel free, and it's the number at the bottom of every statement that says minimum payment due. Tom's minimum payment on that $4,180 is $62. $62 feels manageable. $62 feels like nothing changed. But at the interest rate, printed in size 6, font at the bottom of that same page, 24.9%. Paying only the minimum means Tom will still owe money on tonight's lunches in about 11 years. And he'll have paid close to $6,000 in interest alone to cover a balance that started at $4,180. The minimum payment isn't a kindness. It's a number engineered to be just low enough that you never feel the debt as an emergency, which is exactly what keeps it from ever getting paid off. Debt that feels urgent gets attacked. Debt that feels manageable gets carried, quietly, for over a decade, at a cost most people never actually calculate, because the whole design of the minimum payment is to make sure you never have to. There's a third thing keeping this invisible, and it's not about Tom's bank account at all. It's about everyone else's. Tom's brother-in-law has a balance too. So does the guy at his gym and two people at work, and roughly 40% of American households carrying a card balance month to month. When something is that common, it stops registering as a problem and starts registering as just how life works. Nobody at Thanksgiving mentions their revolving balance, but nobody's shocked by it either, because on some level, everyone at that table is quietly carrying a version of the same folded statement Tom has in front of him tonight. Last Thanksgiving, Tom's brother-in-law made a joke about his own card being maxed out again, and the table laughed, and someone passed the potatoes, and the conversation moved on in under 4 seconds. That's how normalized this has become. A sentence that should stop a room cold gets treated like a comment about traffic. That normalization is doing more damage than any single purchase ever could. If debt were rare, it would feel like an alarm. Because it's everywhere, it feels like weather. Sit with this for a second. Think about the last time you checked a balance and felt relief that it wasn't higher, instead of alarm that it existed at all. That relief is the normalization talking. It's not wrong to feel it, it's just worth noticing where it came from. Here's where the free feeling stops being free, and it happens to Tom on an ordinary Tuesday about 18 months from tonight. His card gets used for something urgent, a car repair he didn't plan for, and the balance crosses a threshold he wasn't watching. The bank flags the utilization. His credit score drops 11 points in a month he did nothing dramatic to deserve. A few months later, he goes to refinance something unrelated, a small personal loan, and the rate he's quoted is almost 4 points higher than it would have been a year earlier. Nobody explains this to him directly. He just gets a slightly worse number on a completely different piece of paper for a completely different reason, and never fully connects it back to the $4,180 that used to feel like nothing. He sits in the loan officer's office that day, a small, windowless room with a printer humming in the corner, and hears the new rate read out loud, and something tightens in his chest that has nothing to do with the amount of the loan itself. It's the realization that a decision made 18 months ago, at a lunch counter for $11 he never even noticed handing over, is quietly following him into a room he didn't know it had access to. That's the real cost of debt that feels free. It isn't only the interest, it's the slow tax it quietly places on every other financial decision you'll make while it's sitting there, unpaid, in the background of your life. Here's what breaks the pattern, and it's smaller than you'd expect. Tom starts doing one thing differently. Before any purchase over $50, he says the total dollar amount out loud, to himself, in the kitchen, before tapping the card. Just the number, nothing else. It sounds almost too small to matter, and for the first week it feels a little ridiculous. But saying $63 out loud reintroduces some of that pain of paying that the card was designed to erase. It's not a budget, it's not a spreadsheet, it's just friction, put back where the system removed it on purpose. 6 months later, the balance is down to $800, not because Tom earned more, but because roughly a third of what used to slip through silently now gets caught by a 2-second pause and a number said out loud in an empty kitchen. It's not dramatic. Nobody would make a movie out of a man standing at a counter saying $63 quietly to himself before he taps his card. But that 2 seconds is doing something no app, no budget spreadsheet, no New Year's resolution ever managed to do for him, which is putting the pain back where it used to live before anyone engineered it away. The truth is, debt was never designed to feel like a threat while you're making it. It was designed to feel like nothing, because nothing doesn't make you hesitate. The only way to fight something built to feel invisible is to make it visible again, on purpose, one small friction at a time. So think about your own version of that folded statement, wherever it's sitting right now. In a drawer or an app you don't open on purpose. You don't have to fix it tonight. Just look at the actual number once, out loud if you can stand it, before you decide anything. That's really what separates the people who get free of this from the people who don't. Not the size of the balance, whether they ever let themselves feel it. If this changed how you think about the difference between what a purchase costs and what it feels like it costs, subscribe. There's another one coming about the specific moment most people finally stop paying only the minimum, and why it usually takes a crisis to get there.